Hey everyone, my name is Zach. I'm a 23-year-old competitive boulderer from Canada, currently living in Montreal. Welcome back to the COMPCLIMB training series, where I record most of my training, provide in-depth analysis of every session, and just chat about climbing with an emphasis on competition. So let's take a look at this picture that you're seeing on your screen right now. This is what happened to my hand the day before this session that you're seeing on the screen. So obviously I had my normal rest day since the last episode where we trained at La Crux. And during this rest day, Maddie and I decided to move some furniture around in our still relatively new apartment. And the long story short, actually, you know what? No, I want to tell the long story, the kind of long story, because it was pretty crazy. So for anyone who doesn't know what a Murphy bed is, it's basically like a bed that folds into a cabinet. And when you fold the bed up into its cabinet position, it sits like flush with the cabinet, and it just it's like locked in there. So anyway, Maddie and I had a Murphy bed that was left by the previous owner in our apartment. We were trying to move it while it was open, so the bed was folded down, and we didn't realize that this thing was screwed, or it was like nailed into the wall. So Maddie's like trying to push the bed, and I'm pushing the shelf, and then the thing comes off from the wall, and the cabinet starts to fall like onto Maddie. And so my instincts kick in, and I try to grab this cabinet, not realizing how heavy it is. And so basically, since this thing like the bed sits flush in the cabinet, like imagine the cabinet falling onto the bed, and then the bed fits perfectly in with the cabinet. And my hand is grabbing onto the cabinet with my fingers on the inside of it. So obviously my hand gets crushed between the cabinet and the bed. And in that split second, I thought that I had literally lost all my fingers. And I kind of went into shock. My hand was hurting so much. I thought that I had like broken all of my fingers and my whole season was ended. It hurts like so badly. But obviously you can see here we are the next day climbing. So after like lots of icing and Advil, my hand started to hurt a lot less. And like also at that point, like before I started this day of training, I didn't know what the pain was from. And that was like the scariest part. I didn't know if I had actual like damage to my bones or ligaments, or if it was just like bruising and, you know, like a surface level injury. So I wanted to definitely go to the gym today and, you know, assess the pain. So obviously you see that I'm trying some hard boulders here. So clearly the pain wasn't too bad. I actually found today while I was training, it actually was pretty painful to hold on to jugs, and even some big pinches where my fingers were sort of being tugged on in a more straight position. I found there was a lot of pain. Okay, not a lot, but a pretty decent amount of pain in that position. If there was a lot of pain, I wouldn't have climbed today. But it definitely felt manageable. And actually, when I would crimp holds or like engage my grip a bit more, it actually didn't hurt. So it is this weird, these weird finger injuries where crimping is actually better for them. But anyway, on this day of training, I had a comp simulation scheduled. It was our last comp sim on the program, but obviously I wanted to take it nice and careful today while I was climbing, so I didn't want to jump right into a comp simulation and push my grip too much and maybe make something worse. So I just decided that we would have a normal bouldering session, which is what we're doing. And I guess I have yet to mention the fact that we are at a new gym today. So there are 3 locations of BLOC Shop, but I have yet to have visited the newest location, which is in Mile-EX. It's called BLOC SHOP MILE-EX. So usually we train at Chabanel and Hochelaga. So here we are finally visiting the Mile-EX location. And I have been recommended to check this place out for a while now. It has sort of 2 different rooms of bouldering, and it's actually like a very cool and unique feeling gym. So this front section is like the classic BLOC Shop bouldering style that you can expect. This is like the product they're known for, just like really well set classic climbing mixed with some comp style elements. But then later in the video, we are going to do some climbing in the famous dark room, which has a very specific theme of its own. And I've gotten a lot of recommendations to come check out the dark room at BLOC Shop, and I'm very excited to do so. And really quick, before I jump on this boulder, let's talk about today's tip of the day. So today's tip of the day is actually going to be one that I've used before, but it was a long time ago and we have a lot of new viewers at this point, so I'm going to recycle it for today's episode. And this is the idea of taking a swing on 2 better holds rather than jumping to the next hold and trying to take a swing while you're trying to catch the next hold that you're going for. And in this situation, like in theory, the next hold that we're jumping for is either worse or the position is actually more difficult to hold a swing off of. So what we do in this scenario is we take a swing on 2 better holds that are like more swingable. In this case, you see that I'm getting some nice compression between the start hold and like my left hand, whereas the next hold that I'm going for is a little bit turned sideways and it's like a weird kind of compression. And if I were to jump to it in this situation, it's actually going to give me this weird kind of helicopter rotation. So holding a swing off of these 2 holds is actually much more difficult than just simply cutting my feet out of the compression with the start hold in the left hand. And then what you do is now obviously in this scenario we're footless and we just campus straight up to the next hold. And what this does is, because our feet have already swung out in the natural way that they would if we were to jump for the next hold, now by just pulling straight up, there is no swing to be taken basically because we already took it. Our feet are already sort of hanging to the left, as you're going to see that I do on this move. And so we don't have to have the swing off of this worse hold and then have this like helicopter swing. So we basically take the swing that we were going to have and put it 1 step earlier while we're grabbing 2 holds that are more swingable on. And actually, as we're going to jump into this boulder, this is going to be my second attempt. I forgot to hit record on my first attempt. And on my first attempt, I fell trying to jump to this next hold. And it was like difficult. And I was getting like this helicopter swing that I'm talking about. And then what I do is I implement this technique for my second attempt, and we're going to see that it works a lot better. So here I am taking this foot cut, and you see as soon as my right hand hits the next hold, I don't actually have any backswing, which makes the position a lot more easy to hold. And for anyone who didn't watch the tip of the day, I mentioned that this is actually my second try of this boulder, and I fell trying to jump into that right hand hold at the beginning. And then on my second attempt, I used this technique where we cut feet first and then campus into the hold to minimize our swing. And that helped me a whole lot to hold that position better. And so we're moving on to like a classic BLOC Shop white tape, just like a line of really bad holds. This is one of my favorite styles of climbing to get on. And BLOC Shop is known for just having these super epic white tape boulders in all their gyms. And this boulder is probably one of the boulders where I was feeling some weirdness in my fingers the most, and it was more so on the lower pinch. So this pinch that I have, like at the second last there, I'm kind of engaging my fingers a bit more. I'm like almost kind of crimping it a little bit, this pinch in my right hand. And so that's where my fingers are feeling like no pain. But the second hold, like the right hand pinch of this boulder, I kind of have to grab it with sort of straight fingers in like an open hand position. And that's where, I'm sort of like tugging on my joints of my fingers because they're like sort of straight. And that's where I feel definitely a bit of pain. And I don't know yet how concerned I should be about this pain. For those who don't know, in Canada, we have like free healthcare, but it is province by province. So I could go get an MRI in Ontario if I wanted, but I would have to obviously drive like 3 hours or something to get from where we live to somewhere in Ontario. And if I wanted to get an MRI here in Montreal, I'm sure it'd be like a bit expensive. So that's why my first instinct wasn't to go get one. I wanted to see how it felt to climb first. So I'm kind of in this weird spot where it hurts like a little bit on some types of holds, but for the most part it's okay. So I don't know if it's worth it to go get an MRI yet. And it's especially really bad timing too, because during this session here, we're flying to Denver in 2 days to go compete. So this might have to wait till after I get back from the US, which, is better than nothing, at least to make sure there's not like a small fracture or something in one or more of my fingers. Because if you couldn't tell from the picture earlier on, I literally crushed like every single one of my fingers on my right hand. My pinky got like the least of it, but I'm pretty much feeling this pain in like all of my fingers. But it was definitely manageable, like I said. And I just want to say quickly, like during this whole day of training, I was just so grateful to be able to climb. Like, holy cow, I had an absolute panic attack yesterday. Like, I was in shock. I thought, there goes my whole year of training and climbing. I thought, like, this is the worst thing that has ever happened to me. And then to, like, have it all flipped on its side within 24 hours, and I was actually able to climb relatively normally today. It was like, it's one of those moments where you just take a step back and just, you appreciate everything, You appreciate the fact that you're able to climb. Not everybody gets to do this. Some people do hurt themselves and are out for months, or, have factors that really get in the way of things. So these past 24 hours have been like a really important, taking a step back for me and just taking a deep breath and being like, wow, I'm actually just really lucky that I'm still climbing right now. And I always like to look at things big picture like that. And I find it helps build like a really sustainable way of looking at climbing and training in general. And honestly, like I definitely would prefer this have not to have happened, because my hand has been in a constant state of pain throughout this whole episode and up until now. It's just not like climbing pain, but my hand has been constantly hurting. But if we're going to look at it in terms of like pros and cons, a pro of this happening is that, I've been starting to get really nervous, and I've been starting to feel the pressure building for Vail, for like the North American Cup. And the pressure to perform is really starting to weigh on me, because this event means a whole lot to me. And it's been like really getting in my head. I'm trying to, wrap my head around it and get ready to perform at my best. And it's just, I feel the pressure. So anyway, this is sort of like almost taking a bit of pressure off, because now it's like, wow, even going there and sucking and just having all this training be for nothing is better than being out for months. So I'm lucky right now. And it's almost like a good time to have this realization, I guess is what I'm getting at. So anyway, here we are finally looking at the dark room at BLOC SHOP MILE-EX. So I don't actually remember when MILE-EX was opened, but it's definitely like a pretty relatively new gym. And the idea with the dark room was to intentionally set like just pure classic styles of like rock climbing. So the idea with this room is to mimic like definitely like outdoor styles of bouldering. And I don't think maybe there's like one or two small volumes back here. But for the most part, this room in BLOC SHOP is all about just like, classic climbing, powerful climbing, having to have good footwork and finger strength. And obviously Montreal is definitely known for being one of the most comp style bouldering areas in the country. And it's almost been getting out of hand to the point where this style of climbing is hard to find sometimes in the city. So this room in BLOC SHOP is dedicated to keeping it alive, and very much so. As you can see, the room is like packed and is like super dense and filled with like fun classic style climbs. And also I got to mention really quick before I continue talking about the dark room, you can see obviously that we are being joined by Ali. So this is ALEXANDRE BERNAUD, I think I'm saying his last name right. And he was featured in an episode a little while back. He is the head setter at Le Crux Laval and a friend of mine. And we had like a super epic session at Le Crux like a few weeks ago. And if you haven't seen that video, you definitely got to go check it out. We had like a super hype session. Ali had the best session of his life and like sent everything in the gym. But anyway, for those who don't know Ali, he is super strong and actually a really good training partner. He definitely, I definitely feel like I'm pushed even in just these couple sessions that we've had together. And he is like super strong, which is honestly a very valuable thing for a head setter to be. And it makes for like some really good setting at Le Crux. And this is a case with a lot of the gyms in the city, actually. A lot of the head setters and just the full like setting team are actually like really strong climbers. And that's also just why the setting is so good in the city. But yeah, anyway, this dark room. So, man, I'm like bummed that it doesn't come across in the camera. Like no matter what I tried, I even tried like a couple panos of the dark room, but the vibe in here does not come across in the camera. Like this dark room is like really cool. It's called the dark room for a reason. We've got like the black walls, even like the normal walls like surrounding the gym are black, and they've got like this really kind of like hipster graffiti everywhere. And it's just a very fun, cool feeling room of bouldering. And it almost feels like it's like a kind of like a tourist attraction. You definitely have to come check out the dark room to see what I mean. It just feels very fun to be in this room. And the boulders are like stiff too, so it just adds to the whole vibe of like you're in here trying hard in the dark, and it's a lot of fun. And speaking of stiff boulders, it's a good time to mention that fact, because this thing that we're trying briefly here is probably the hardest thing back here. And this boulder is like really hard. I actually thought it looked kind of doable, but the thing that you don't realize before you touch this boulder is that all of these holds are like super, super greasy. So listen, I thought this line of pinches at rose block was really greasy, and like makes all of the boulders set with those pinches like extra hard, because you just have to squeeze so hard. But these ones honestly make the rose block pinches look sticky, because you see I can't even like touch this left hand pinch. I think that boulder is also just old, like it's been up for a while, and that's also why it's pretty greasy. But we quickly realized that there was not much progress to be made on that red boulder, and I wanted to get back on this black one from earlier in the morning because it definitely felt much more doable. So yeah, like I said, this boulder was definitely feeling more doable, but it's still like really, really hard, and I did not feel necessarily close to getting a send of it. So that obviously this jump move out to like the left hand pinch is the crux of this boulder, and it is just so hard. Like these pinches are just like pretty slopey, and you gotta squeeze them really, really hard. Honestly, I really like this boulder, and this is definitely one of my favorite styles of boulders to climb on. Just pinches that there's no element of like really stick that's important on this move in particular. You just feel like you have to squeeze so hard, and that's all this move is about. And you got to hold the swing. So honestly, I wish I could have worked this boulder for a bit more, because I think it's super epic. And I never really felt that close to the jump. You can see I'm just like ripping out of there. And then the fact that even just jumping from the ground into those two pinches is like difficult to hold onto them with no feet sort of told me that, okay, I think this move is just like really hard. It definitely felt possible, but I would need probably multiple sessions on this boulder in order to get a send. So this here ends up being my last try, and what I say to myself is, all right, I'm either gonna send this boulder right now, or I'm gonna try and get a mock send of this boulder, where if I fall, I basically just pull right back on and try to send the boulder for the rest of it. And I actually got a mock send of this boulder in the first session as well, while I was talking about other things. So I got like 2 mock sends of this boulder, if that means anything. And I said, okay, yeah, I won't be able to try that one anymore because I want to do a campus session tomorrow. So no white tapes were able to get sent today at BLOC SHOP, but that's okay because, like I said, I am just still so grateful that I was actually able to climb. Like this whole day of training, I was actually just having so much fun because I just felt like so lucky. And then climbing with Ali was just an added bonus in terms of fun. So here we got Ali trying this blue boulder that I was doing in the morning, and he was like on try hard mode in this session because he had a brutal day of setting at La Crux, like probably 2 days before this session. So his skin was like destroyed and his body was broken, but he was still looking super strong. And we had like a lot of fun. And honestly, when the psych is there, even a broken body can perform on strength boulders. Psych is just that powerful. So here we are moving on to another boulder, and this one actually ends up being one of the most interesting boulders from the whole day of training, and probably the most fun in terms of the projecting process that went into this boulder. So first of all, Ali is a tall dude, and he was definitely making me sad by being able to just reach this hold. And meanwhile, jumping to this hold isn't difficult, but what we're going to realize later is that the way that we have to jump into this hold in order to do the beginning sequence is going to make this boulder like really hard. And so Ali is such a nice guy that he decided to start jumping to the hold with me, just so we could have a similar process to working this boulder, and he didn't just reach it. But you'll see what I mean in a second. For now, we're realizing that Ali is not, mobility is not his strongest suit, and he's really struggling to get this high foot. Meanwhile, I am struggling with the start of this boulder. And that is the fact that we realize you actually kind of have to start cross-handed on this start hold in order to like be able to get your foot up. Like when we go out to this right hand, if your left hand is on the left part of the start hold, you're just kind of stuck, right? You can't hand-foot match. The right hand hold is too slopey to kind of bump your left hand in. So you have to have your left hand on the right side of the hold in order to get your left foot up. And so we realized we have to like jump into a cross hand position, and then now we have space for our foot like later on in the sequence. But it is so weird to jump into this position, and you can see I'm like have to try it so many times. And it's because like the hold is flat, right? So you're not actually getting any opposition. And your hands are just kind of like, it just feels really weird to have them cross like that without opposition. And so it was like making for a really fun and difficult start move. And then, yeah, as you can see, Ali is joining me in the process of trying to jump to this hold, even though he can just reach it. And even by even having to jump to it, he still does it easily. He was really strong on this start sequence of this boulder, and I'm like really struggling with it. And then finally, I just decide I need to try like really, really hard, and I get lucky and snag the start hold. And then the ending sequence of this boulder is also pretty hard. I don't usually like power scream when I boulder. I find that it's just like distracting for me, and I don't like drawing attention to myself. But I was power screaming at the end of that boulder because we were having such a psych session, and I wanted to finish that one off. So I power screamed my way through the pinches and got a cool send of this one. And then Ali still just couldn't get his foot up to the start hold to do the second move. So he just decides to do a run of the ending and call it a day on that boulder. And yeah, so we move on to a slab here, because at this point, like, take a second to kind of like think about all the boulders we were doing today and realize that there has not been a lot of slab that we did today. Like I said, I ditched the comp simulation in the morning just to not push myself. And so basically what I did with this whole day of training is I just did 2 regular boulder sessions, like unfocused boulder sessions where I could just get on whatever kind of climbs that I wanted to. And this is like, you know, just our typical training that we usually do, or like that we've done in the past. And then what ended up happening was, I guess all I wanted to get on were power boulders. So the reason we had to finish with a slab is because I was like really powering out at this point, big time. We did like a lot of strength-based and power boulders in this whole day of training at Mile-EX. And I was pretty toasted after today. And I knew that I was definitely going to make life worse for myself tomorrow. And my grip was probably going to be really sore for the next day of training because I really worked it to its maximum capacity today. So anyway, I called it after that slab, and Ali had just enough gas to get revenge on this 9 from earlier in the session. And we finished with an epic send of this boulder. And that wrapped up our day of training at BLOC SHOP MILE-EX. Definitely like a super sick gym. We'll be going back there for sure. The dark room is super cool and is great if I ever like am feeling like I want to just get on classic like rock climbing style boulders. The dark room is good for that. and I'm sure we'll be back in the future. So anyway, here we are at the Hochelaga location of BLOC Shop the next day for our campus session. And obviously this is the free session that I have scheduled on this program. And like I've said, I always try to prioritize campusing in my free sessions. So I always have the option to do whatever kind of training I want to, but campusing is really important as we're leading up to a competition to build some nice feeling power. And I was almost tempted, honestly, by the boulders that were up in BLOC Shop Hochelaga. As I was walking into the gym over to the spray wall, I had to walk past all of the very pretty white tapes and like the epic hard looking boulders. And I had to do my best to resist them because I really wanted to get a campus session in. And it's been a while since I've had like a strong feeling campus session on this wall. If you can kind of remember, like the past 2 sessions that I've had on this wall for campusing, I was like just so feeling bad and like low energy on those days. So I really wanted to like get on these boulders that I've tried in the past while I was feeling better. And I actually surprisingly was feeling pretty decent on this session. Like I said, I expected my grip to be like wrecked from all of the physical boulders at MILE-EX. But my grip was actually feeling like pretty decent. I put it at like a 7 out of 10, maybe 7.5. So my grip was pretty good for the session, but it was weird. Like I was really sleepy and kind of low energy, and it was kind of annoying. It's like I either feel low energy and bad, or like low energy and good, or high energy and bad when I come to Hochelaga for a campus session. So I felt like I had the tools to work with on these campus boulders, but I was like feeling like really like and it was just hard to activate. So I didn't really make too much progress on our classic campus projects up here at Hochelaga. So you see, I'm just kind of like briefly putting some attempts on all of them, and I can tell like I'm like even after 1 or 2 tries on some of the boulders, I can tell that I'm just not going to be making any progress. And so I just try and move along through all the boulders to see if there's one that just kind of sticks. Like if I find a boulder that just feels like, okay, maybe there's actually a bit of progress to be made here. But nothing really clicked. So I realized, okay, this campus session isn't what I wanted to be, unfortunately. I'm still waiting for my golden campus session at Hochelaga, but I'll have to wait a little bit longer. So I called that campus session a bit shorter than I would want to. Usually I try to go for like 45 minutes, and that one ended up just being 30. And I definitely wanted to move into my endurance training while I had just a little bit of energy. I always want to make sure I don't push it too much with whatever I decide to do for my free session, because the more I push it during my free session, the harder my endurance session is going to be. And this is the last session of endurance that we're doing on this program going into Vail, so I definitely have to make it count. And this is also the session where we basically get to see where I'm at, like how much progress did I actually make with my endurance? Like, do I feel a bit more resistance built up? Is it a bit harder for me to get pumped? And the answer to those questions I actually realized during the session was yes. I felt like I definitely, even just after 4 sessions of endurance, I feel like some gains. Like this boulder that we're doing here, I looked at it and I said, this thing is the perfect boulder to really test my limits of my endurance. This thing looks like super pumpy, super physical. You see, I almost got all 4 reps on that one. I just got smacked with a crazy pump trying to go for the finish hold on that last rep. But every rep that I executed on that boulder, I sort of surprised myself. I thought like after 2 reps, I'm like, okay, surely I'm not getting a third one in. And then I did the third one and I'm like, okay, surely I'm not even gonna make it halfway up this rep. And then I fell in the finish. So I definitely was like surprised myself with the level of resistance that I had on my side. And that boulder was like just the absolute perfect one for this session. And then this one that we're doing here is definitely a little bit softer. These holds were a bit more positive than I thought. So this one wasn't too bad to execute all 4 reps on. And the other idea with this endurance session, like I said, is like really to push my limits. And I wanted to like see exactly where I was at. I wanted to get like some good confidence built up in my endurance capabilities. So I had to pick the perfect level of boulders for this session. And looking around in the gym, there weren't too many other boulders that looked like absolutely perfect. And so I said, okay, then let me just do another set on this boulder actually, just because it's so good. And it was actually interesting doing another set on this boulder. Obviously at this point, the pump had accumulated so much more than my first set on this climb. Because obviously I only take 4 minutes of rest in between my sets, and that is intentionally not enough time for my body to really get rid of all the pump. So like every future set that I do, I just get more and more pumped because it's like accumulating, right? But at the same time, on my first set when I did this boulder, I hadn't ever climbed it before. And so obviously at this point I have climbed it and I had like really good muscle memory for it. So there was definitely an element of having better muscle memory canceling out the accumulated pump. That being said, the accumulated pump definitely wins that battle any day. But the muscle memory just helped out just enough to actually put like a good set on this boulder. Like check out this try hard that I'm putting on, doing my classic scorpion move there to hold on to those slopers so desperately. And then as soon as I got my foot back on, my hands were just giving out. Like the pump was too much. And I really pushed myself to the absolute limit on that boulder. And I thought that was a really good send-off session for our endurance. And I'm very happy with the progress I made, even just over these 4 sessions. And I think I have a valuable weapon on my side going into Vail. And hopefully I'm a bit more equipped for it physically, just because it's so high at altitude and it really knocks the wind out of you and gets you pumped, even when you normally wouldn't be. So this workout that we're doing here ends up being our last bit of training in Montreal before we are going to fly to Denver the next day. And I'm going to Denver like really early to train for about a week and a half before Vail, obviously, to get acclimated to the altitude. I think Denver is at about 5,000 feet elevation, and then Vail is at 8,000. So it's not like necessarily going to be the perfect week of acclimating, but it's better than nothing. And that's because there aren't any like real climbing gyms in Vail. I said this a few videos ago, I said there are no climbing gyms in Vail. And then after I recorded that video, I thought to myself, I better go make sure that's like actually 100% true. So I did like a quick Google and I found like one gym like that was really hard to get a perception of what the bouldering was like. It didn't seem like the best. Definitely some gyms in Denver are better. So it's like, okay, the trade-off is, do I want to train in probably some better looking facilities or actually trying to acclimate to the perfect altitude? And I think obviously I've decided that I want to prepare in Denver, and then, we'll just have to deal with a slight increase in elevation when it's Vail time. And that's just how I've always done it. Like I've competed in Vail quite a few times and I always train in Denver for like a week and a half. So at the very least, I'm used to this. And I kind of know what to expect. So yeah, anyway, the next episode that you can expect to see is going to be, you know what? I've actually been thinking about this. I don't know what kind of style video I'm going to do for like our training in Denver and the competition. I'm thinking about doing like sort of one big mega video, similar to like the couple vlogs that Tamoa did on his YouTube channel for his Salt Lake World Cups. I really liked those videos that he made, and you see like sort of his travel, and you just see like a bit of the training before the event, and then we like obviously have some video of the competition. I might actually do just like a big mega, like this is the peak of my year Vail video, because like I've been saying, this competition is so important to me, and I think a big mega video would highlight its importance of how important it is to me. So I don't know yet, we'll see. Maybe we'll just have some regular COMPCLIMB episodes, but maybe there'll be some crazy big video. I don't know yet. So anyway, I'm feeling super lucky that I'm actually still able to climb right now. My hand is still in some pain. It was actually feeling a little bit worse on the second day, like the campus day, than it was on day one climbing at MILE-EX. But like I said, it's hard to tell if that's just pain of like it bruising and I'm like cut and whatnot, or if it's actually like internal pain. So I have to keep an eye on it. I'm flying to the US tomorrow, so I don't have time to really get this checked out, but if it was hurting more, then I would be more concerned. The state it's in is like, seems to be manageable. So I just have to, you know, scrap myself together, hold it all together, do my best in Vail, and then deal with it after. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in whatever the next episode of our Denver trip ends up being. Insert gadget video outro here.